and welcome to another huge update interview. And I'm currently joined with someone I can say the name of, Dan Rocha.
Hello.
It's been. I think the last few interviews I've had has been with like some Swedish developers, in which their names are just so. Yeah, it's been interesting interesting to talk to him. Couldn't say the name to save my life. Anyway, I should I'm gonna just ask a quick question just to get this going. Just you're Dan. Obviously, you're Dan DeRocha from Toxic Games and from another game developers studio, which I can't remember the name of.
It's Fiddlesticks.
Fiddlesticks. And I just wanted to get you to give a brief history, because I know it's a long history right now of just how you started and where you've got to now.
Yeah, so I studied at Newport University in South Wales, and in my final year, I created a game with two other friends in my class. It was a short 10-minute demo, and it was called Project Q.U.B.E. It was a first-person puzzle game where you control different coloured cubes to make, to get from. Sorry, let me say that again. So it's so confusing now because I'm working on Hue and Cube, so I'm kind of giving the pitch for Hue, if that makes sense.
Oh, I get it. Yeah. must be tough for you.
My brain, yeah, they both involve colours as well. So anyway, in Cube, you control these different coloured objects, basically to get from room to room, making sections of the room rotate, sort of like you're inside a Rubik's Cube. And we made this short 5 to 10 minute demo, didn't really think we were going to take it anywhere. And then our lecturers and also I think it was Mike Biffle who came along to our end of year graduation show and said, "Hey guys, you've got something here, why don't you go indie with it?" And we didn't really know what indie was back then. And then we put the game up on ModDB, and within a couple of weeks we had a few thousand downloads, lots of positive feedback on the game. So we thought, okay, let's see where we can take this. So we went to Develop Conference down in Brighton, met lots of prestigious people in the industry, such as Mark Rain from Epic Games, and he really liked the game. And then the next stage was to secure some funding so we could actually make this thing full time. And we applied to Indie Fund, which is a collective of game industry veterans like Jonathan Blow, Kelly Santiago, Ron Carmel, and they basically accepted the game. Out of 200 applicants, they picked 3 titles, and we were lucky enough to be one of those, which was amazing, and that enabled us to live out our dream and make the game full time. And we released it on Steam 2012 and paid back that investment within 4 days, and have been making games ever since.
Yeah.
It's coming up to 5 years now.
And it's just gone out on Xbox One, hasn't it? Because you went on to one of their streams of it, didn't you? When they were testing it. Well, sorry, when they were playing it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that
you and the elusive Dave Hall appeared for an hour. I believe you said probably short of like 2,000 words, and I think Dave managed 10 total.
that's about right. Yeah. Oh man, amazing. Yeah.
So with the success of Q.U.B.E, obviously that left you, as you said, like you were making good, and you secured everything that was going well for it, and you were looking to develop it onto other platforms as well at the time. But then you decided to move away from Toxic Games. You wanted to branch out and do other projects. How did that come about, and where did that actually lead up to where you are now?
Sure. So I think in university you don't really get to pick the team as you would if you were starting a company from scratch with a bit of funding, if that makes sense. But that worked out well. I think Toxic, we complemented each other's skills. But after that, I wanted to kind of go in a new direction, explore other territories like app development, perhaps, and maybe some client work, just to get a sense of that, because I think it was kind of lucky that we went straight into the indie scene. So yeah, I basically set up a company called Mudvark, used some profits from Q.U.B.E and hired Henry Hoffman, who was also at Newport University, and created a game which was published by Microsoft during uni, which was cool. And I thought, okay, let me team up with him, and we started Mudvark on the basis that we would get this big contract gig, which we did, and that went well. But in the time to secure that deal, we created a game called Mortamelon within 3 months, which got featured on the Windows 8 store. And Windows 8 was new at the time. And we managed to reach the #1 spot for a week in the US, which was cool. And the game had over 1 million downloads within a year, I think it was, which was cool. So that was the main motivation behind that. But at the same time, I was still juggling Toxic Games because that kind of got me to where I was, and I still wanted to do stuff with Q.U.B.E anyway. So I think it was a good variety of projects to be working on.
Yeah, and you've not only done game development, but you've also done talks. You're quite prevalent in the scene of doing lectures. Normally you give a talk, which is normally what you've just said for the past few minutes now, which is just how you set up the two companies and how it is as an indie developer to run multiple projects at the same time and not only have one success but also multiple successes. And I was just wondering, how has doing the talks not only like helped you, but how have you seen it help others? Have you actually seen that actually happen?
So you mean like people being inspired almost, or?
Yeah, like when you're doing these talks of like people come up and say like thanks for that. It is an inspiration, and also just like how did you actually fall into doing these lectures in a way?
Yeah, so basically in uni and in college and school, I used to hate public speaking. I used to hate presentations, and even when we were demoing Q.U.B.E in university, I was the one who was actually playing the game, whilst another person on the team would talk about it. But as as we went full time, I thought, okay, someone has to kind of be the face of the company. Someone has to promote the game, and I thought, okay, I'll take this responsibility on and do this. So my first talk was actually at GDC in San Francisco, which is like a really prestigious games event, and I did not know what to expect. And that was very nerve-wracking. But after that, I thought, okay, I'm going to practice this and do some research online. Yeah, so basically schools, I would go to schools and give talks there, kind of inspire young kids to get into games. Other events like Develop Conference in Brighton, and other events around Europe and in America as well. And even, I'm just trying to think of some off the top of my head, such as CEGC, I was over there in Vienna, another talk in Amsterdam, and a few other ones. And it's... Yeah, no, I do enjoy it. It's still it can be nerve-wracking at times when we've got new topics to talk about or whatever. Really, we just speak our mind and talk about the game development and stuff. And people seem to be inspired afterwards. I think the story of going from being a university student to creating a game and then releasing it commercially, I think that's a strong point, and a lot of people can kind of understand where we're coming from, really. So I think, I think it's cool. And that's the reason for the YouTube channel I was starting, so I could kind of give that advice to anyone who's sitting at home.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that, actually, because you set that up around about a year ago, and it is exactly what you've just said it was. It's a little short tutorial videos of you just talking more or less inspirational speeches, and there's a few of them where you get in your developer friends to basically what is it, your living room, and you just shooting, asking questions and just talking about game development as a whole.
Yeah, that's it, really. And then going in depth on each aspect, on everything from like business to marketing to actual game development and design and theories and things like that. There's a lot of content I've written up, but it's just a case of sitting down and filming it. But with in between all game development and heading to events, it's quite tough to find the time. But hopefully at some point later this year I'll be able to do that.
Yeah. No, you should, because one, you have a better camera than me. And all right, I do have to give a little disclaimer here, because I forgot to do it at the beginning of the interview. We're friends. We both went to the same university. I went to Newport University. I was a year below you.
Yeah.
So that's why we know, like, that's why I'm laughing at some of the jokes in which we're talking about Dave Hall or like, or like John, and the fact like you just said like you were shocked to be the face of your company. When what did you want? Did you want Dave to go up? I mean, it's definitely like over the time that I've known you guys, it definitely has come across as like you are definitely the most outspoken. You're definitely the most lively, the most upfront about like all situations. Like I couldn't see anybody else doing the pitches, doing the demos, kind of like the way you were doing them
Right.
out of the Toxic Game team. I mean, you guys were great because I saw you developing, and you were hard at work all the time. You didn't give yourself much time to slack off. To be fair,
Mm. Yeah, I mean, you lived in the house for quite some time,
yeah,
so
for quite some time, you guys actually supported me through a pretty rough patch. I gotta say, it was quite nice of you. But
yeah.
there is a question to follow up from this, and that is like going from where you were in university to where you are now. What has definitely been the biggest eye opener or just biggest shock for you to have to get your head around? I mean, you said about public speaking and all that, but was there any others like in terms of development or just the business of making video games?
Yeah, I'd say that last point actually, because when we started out and when we released Cube, it was like, okay, surely we can do the same thing again, or now we have much more experience, or we could do something similar. We're in a good position, and that's correct. That was true, but in the 5 years I've been a full-time developer, the industry's changed so much, and I think that's what you have to be wary of is constant change, and you can't just settle on one thing and just have that same business model and keep redoing the same thing because it's just ever changing. Like a few examples, like Steam Greenlight. Steam opened the floodgates to all developers, which is great, but at the same time, it's made an issue for discoverability, and there's much more competition out there now. So it's just becoming harder and harder and harder for developers. And then also finding good companies to work with as well. We got screwed over by a few, unfortunately. That's why the console version took a bit longer to come out than it should have done. So that was a tough time. But yeah, I think we're all continually learning, and that's the key thing, really.
Yeah, and so with making it for consoles, and actually making it for consoles and making it actually the director's cut, like how was developing that that side of that project for you? Because there was a lot that you left behind when you first launched the game, and then you came out with the director's cut. So how was that process for you?
Yeah, so we kind of read all the reviews about the game, and one of the key points was that it kind of lacks storyline. And we were umming and ahhing whether we should add a story, and we did have a writer come in during the core development of Cube and write up a story. But yeah, so we decided, okay, let's, for the console version, and even Sony kind of said this to us as well, to add a bit of a story. We thought, okay, let's beef it up a bit. Let's bring in a writer. So we brought in Rob Yescom, who had worked on. He did some stuff on Alien Isolation, I think, and he did stuff on Crisis and Rime and a few other titles, AAA titles. And he was keen to get on the project, so we invited him along. And yeah, I think he did a really good job. He got some good deals on hiring people as well, considering we were indie. And that went really well. And then, but the problem was the actual porting of the game with one specific company that unfortunately didn't deliver as they promised. So we had to find another company, and they finally did a really good job. So it turned around in the end, but it was a long time coming.
Yeah, and just a little thought about like the fact that you made a director's cut. I mean, games don't have that often. So how, like, obviously you just described of like there was some stuff that you got told that you were having to put in, but were there stuff that you were wanting to fix, and not just like bugs or like little stuff? Like, were there like other mechanics or like little puzzles that were left on the side that you were just like, right, this is the time, this is where we can just like cram in stuff like that? And how do you feel about like the fact that you got to do a director's cut, as it were?
Yeah, so we did have a bunch of puzzles that didn't make it into the original game, which we did add into Director's Cut within sort of hidden areas and like bonus puzzles. And then we did develop a new mode called Against the Clock, where you kind of run a race against time. And this was actually DLC on Steam. And then we integrated that as a part of Director's Cut. And it's hard to say, really. I think the narrative definitely boosted the Metacritic, at least on consoles. So I think it got 79 and 80 on PS4 and Xbox One, respectively, which was cool. We got to work with Rob. We got to add some new stuff to the game, which was nice. But I guess I'm indifferent to that, I think. I mean, we could have launched the original version on console and had it out, and then been working on Q.U.B.E 2 from day one after that happened. But we didn't. But however, yeah, that's what's done is done, and I'm happy it's out now. So
yeah. So moving on from Q.U.B.E, you did your talks. You worked on the director's cut. Obviously, there's now rumors, and I believe you've now announced it, of Q.U.B.E 2 is in the works.
That's right. Yeah, we announced it last August. I think IGN did an announcement, but it was kind of low key, should we say?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's still an early development, and it's still got a lot. Probably another year or year and a half in the oven before like you start really pushing on it. So obviously the next project that's going to be coming up for you in particular will be Hue, won't it?
Exactly.
So there's very little I actually know about this game, because all I keep seeing is you guys playing it, but it's normally of a tiny screen of like you talking with somebody else, and then the computer, like the screen's not doing much, and it's just you talking about like the game. So can you just like describe it and just like give us a whole spiel of what Hue is and what it will be when it,
Sure. Yeah. So Hue is a 2D puzzle platformer where you shift the background color of the game to make objects appear and disappear. And you play as a boy called Hugh, and his mother was a researcher at a university, and she created something called the annular spectrum, a colored ring that enables everyone in the world to see in color, as opposed to black and white, which isn't what they can normally see in grayscale. And the evil Dr. Gray wants to steal her ideas, so makes her disappear and steals the idea from himself. So you wake up in Hugh's bedroom, and you have to go on an adventure to find his mother, basically. And you come out, the whole world is grayscale, and you find a blue fragment, and that gets added to the color wheel. And then the sky turns blue, and all the characters in the world, in that village at that point, are going, whoa, it's gone blue, what's going on here? And then, you progress like that. You pick up one color at a time. And lots of different puzzles, lots of challenging concepts there. For example, a basic concept is that you shift the background to red when you come up to a red block, and then that object melts away and you can run past. But then if you shift the background back to blue, that object reappears. So it's all about uncovering different objects. And then there's different colored lasers that come into play, and you have to avoid them. There's going to be colored balloons that raise objects up, anchors that pull them underwater, and a bunch of other things that we're going to be playing with. So it should be a fun game.
Right.
And that's
it. It definitely seems that you're going to have a bit more of a push of like an actual story here, because you just gave me an actual story.
Yeah.
On like what the original Q.U.B.E was.
Yeah, so we actually thought this one through this time, which is cool. And then there's going to be other characters that you interact with speech bubble text, and a voiceover narrative as well.
All right.
Theme narrator, actually.
Sorry. So you've now, because Hugh's now going to be developed by you and Hugh Hoffman. How has it been actually working with him? You said that you started working with him before on the Windows game.
Yeah, I think we've been working together now for 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's a really good working relationship. It's kind of the yin and the yang. So he focuses on all the game development and everything, and then I'll focus on the biz dev, PR, and production. And that just goes hand in hand. So he's looking in, I'm looking out. And yeah, it works well. I can attend all the events, and he'll come to some, of course. But there's that good balance, So and I think we support each other in different roles. So
yeah, and from that, because you definitely seem to have fitted into this PR side of it a lot more comfortably than I think even you would have imagined. And is that something that you definitely enjoy and want to continue in?
Yeah, well, so Q.U.B.E was a good way to find out what each person's role was on the team, because at the beginning we were all doing the same thing. We were all doing a bit of development, all doing the PR, the events and stuff, which is kind of fair because I think everyone wanted to go to San Francisco, so I don't blame them. But then you kind of figure out who's good at what, people's strengths, people's weaknesses. And I think this stuff is definitely my strengths. I do enjoy the level design and making games, but from this business perspective, I think this relationship just works much better.
Yeah. So with that, just gonna touch back on something you just said there. Is there an idea, like a kernel of a game idea that you're just desperate to crank out and or are you just now just full on to PR? Have you accepted?
Obviously, yeah, still coming up with ideas all the time, whether it be in the shower or in bed, always jotting them down.
Don't tell me about you being in the shower.
You don't want to know about that, mate. Just, singing there. I think the thing is, because both Henry and me, we're always coming up with ideas, and you always come up with a new one. It's that would be cool to do. Oh, this would be cool to do. And we're kind of flooded with so many cool ideas. I think doing any one of those would be fun, and I'd be happy to work on. And a good example is actually with Hugh. So we actually created 3 different pitch documents of 3 pretty different games, but we'd be happy to work on any of them. Because they were all pretty awesome ideas, and we got some concept art done, and you can kind of visualize how they're going to look. But the one we picked was Hugh, and we've gone down that route, and we're really enjoying working on the game and seeing other people's reactions when we take it to events. So yeah, I wouldn't say there's no longer really a single dream game idea. There's many, I guess, but I'd be happy to work on any of them. Whoa, bro.
But when you go to these events, who are the people that you recognize? Who are the people you consider to be your peers around when you do these event shows?
Definitely. So there's so many developers that I've met now, and going to the events, you always see loads of familiar faces. And yeah, it's great to catch up with all these guys. I mean, I could list off so many, but I mean, you have the key developers such as Biffle and Rami, Ismail, and quite a few other guys. And it's always great to catch up with them and share knowledge and share beers, I guess.
Yeah, we should point out one of the biggest cultural touchstones of game development is apparently drinking half your body weight in alcohol in the course of 3 days.
Yeah, it can get dangerous. I think. Yeah, you have to be as sensible as possible, really, in those environments, because most of the time there's a free bar and it can get out of hand. So
Yeah.
just trying
So
to be up with it.
with you being at all these events, and obviously with you being in the indie space, like, do you have much time to like wander over and like check out new things? And have you actually caught anything before it became uh, a success, or have you seen something that you're just gone, this is going to be something? This is going to be something that's going to be cool. These are guys to check out.
Sure. I'm trying to think because I've obviously seen so many games and it's insane. I think a lot of the time the games I see I've heard of them before. I'm trying to think of a particular thing that I've seen at an event that I haven't. Nothing is springing to mind. I'm sure there have been a few, but I just can't think of any right now. But I think actually I think it was Hyperlight Drifter maybe. I think I met Teddy at this one of the developers of the game at Glitch City in LA, where it's like
Yeah, they're based there, aren't they?
yeah, I think I saw it there, and then I think
Because they're based there, and Akira is also based there.
yeah,
One of the founders.
yeah, right.
And it's basically a small like little hub collective, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a cool place.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh. So with you completely flaking on not remembering anything that you do at these events.
Right, man. It's just,
Someone just ask you, what did you drink? What's the beer at choice there? Yeah.
well, in Germany it's Kolsch. Well, in Cologne, sorry. It's
Yeah.
Gaffel Kolsch.
All right. Didn't know that. Now I know.
That was the standard local beer.
So yeah, I could, if I asked you more about the beers, you could probably give me a better representation, I imagine. Oh, well, I got another one. So with the future of video games, obviously, like they're moving on. Everybody's now moving on to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and all that. And with the future of VR, has that been something? Obviously, with Q.U.B.E, I believe you were looking into that at some point, but away from Q.U.B.E, has VR been like something you've been interested in?
Yes. I mean, with Q.U.B.E Director's Cut, we were adamant about getting Oculus support in there early. So we'd be one of the first, I guess. But that really didn't have an impact in the end because, you could kind of integrate Oculus into mini games if you wanted. And with Q.U.B.E 2, we're actually going to support, well, we're kind of developing at the moment, but looking to support Oculus and Morpheus for the PS4. So that's cool. However, it's hard to say. It's hard to know how much time to commit to it because we don't know where it's going really. So I think we're kind of playing it safe, having the typical, the standard first-person gaming experience, but then have Oculus support in there, but perhaps also have a special mode as well where you can move around without perhaps the controller. I'm not sure yet, but Henry did a game called A Border Looking Glass, which came first place in Elite Motion VR Jam.
Right.
I think it was the end of the last year now. Yeah, time has flown. But that was cool because you had Elite Motion attached to the front of the Oculus, which meant that you didn't need a controller, and the whole game was on rails, and it was a first-person puzzle game. So you solve a puzzle by using your hands. The left hand is a portal to the past, the right hand is a portal to the future, and you kind of put the hand in front of the Elite Motion to you reveal hidden objects. And once you complete a puzzle, the camera moves you to the next puzzle automatically, and it works pretty well. But obviously, the commercial potential is not really there at the moment because that's two different pieces of hardware you need to purchase, and not many people are going to have both.
Yeah, something tells me not many people are going to drop the supposed amount of money that they're talking about for both of those systems straight off the bat, I believe.
Exactly.
I mean, that's definitely one hurdle that both, like, all developers of the hardware is gonna have to face, and it's gonna be interesting to see who comes out on top of that little race that they're gonna have in probably in the next few year or so. By the sounds of it, they're getting pretty close.
Yeah.
But with, like, obviously with you guys testing with it, is like, was there any like notable like actual real challenges? Because like there's been a lot of talk of like developers coming out to say like developing the experience for VR is something that is completely new, because there's a lot more like central things going on than there has been before. So that, like, certain developers have come out and had to say like this is going to take a while before we start making good products, and I'm just wondering if that's something you guys have come across.
Yeah, I think the main thing is avoiding motion sickness for players, because that was a big thing with the first Oculus. And I remember the first time I tried the Oculus, I was standing up and first person game, I was walking forward and my legs started trembling like crazy, and I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, I did that. I heard about that trick, and I had to try it because I got my hands on an early development kit. I tried that. I heard about that, and yeah, it's weird. It's weird how your legs just don't like it.
It is, yeah. Your brain's just getting confused. It's like, what is going on? um, so yeah, it's trying to avoid that, and I think with Cube, because of the super white environment, that doesn't really help with the motion sickness, I don't think. But there are ways around it, like tweaking certain settings and trying to make it feel good. But at the end of the day, I mean, I don't think it's the best experience with the controller. I think, they're bringing out those new those new. You have a controller in each hand, and then it's kind of dynamic.
Yeah, they're starting to like basically look like nunchucks.
Yeah.
Like, it's the Wiimote and like Move, like PlayStation Move sensors that they're like toying with, and I've yet to get my hands on one of them and actually try it out. But it seems that it might solve some issues. It might actually create a whole bunch, probably create more problems than it's worth. But that's just development.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what we'll do, but we'll keep experimenting, really.
Yeah. So, let's round this off with a question, with one more question. So, with you having Q coming out, is it later this year? It's coming out.
We're looking at Q1 next year, so around March time.
Right.
But we don't have a confirmed date yet. So.
And with Q.U.B.E. coming out, yet to be announced, but it will be coming out in sometime in the future. How does your future actually look? I mean, how do you actually feel everything's going, and where do you feel that you'll be going in the future?
Sure. So it's hard to say where, what we're aiming for. I mean, we've got heads down at the moment, focusing on Q development. We want to get that out for early next year. Once that's done, we'll start working on the next thing straight away, probably, maybe a couple of weeks off, if anything. And it also depends on the success of Q, how well that does commercially. And then Q.U.B.E. will still be there in the background, well, for me at least, but then Dave Hall will be on that full time, and that will roll out. I don't know when yet, but maybe 2017, who knows at this point in time. But so it's all focused on those, but we want to get an office space at some point, so we have a more of establishment in London or around London, and continue doing what we're doing, really. Travel around, hitting events, giving talks, making the games, and generally enjoying what we do. I think the key is to be sustainable, so working better hours in a way, getting that work-life balance sorted out. But we always say this, but we end up just spending so much time on the game.
You guys still working like the midnight oils without having like a 9 to 5 or like sticking to a 40-hour week or something? You guys are doing like 80, 90, whatever the week demands type stuff.
Basically, I mean, things are much better now. We get time to hit the gym and socialize and stuff. But I think at this point in time, it's crunch time. Henry is working around the clock to meet the deadlines. So it's on and off. And yeah, if the week commands it, then we will do the work. But I think that, I don't know, there's something about it that we've kind of accepted, and I think I don't know, it's hard to say, but I think Henry enjoys it a little bit.
Yeah, from what I remember, that guy likes to, one, work alone, and two, he likes a good like crunch every now and again. I remember some of the stints he would just stick in his like room, just like honing a project by himself. I remember that. I remember that about him.
Did you live with him at one point?
No, I never lived with him. I never lived in that animal house
with the Morris.
Yeah, I never lived with those guys. So yeah, I missed that experience from what I got told of the shenanigans they got up to. But yeah, so like I said, that was the last question that I really had. So, like I say, just anything you got to plug, anything, like obviously your company and all that, and yourself. So please just go ahead, let it all out. Let's get all of your social media links and all your current projects and all your games that are currently out, so people can buy them and enjoy them.
So the current game is Fiddlesticks, and let me say that the current company is Fiddlesticks, and the game we work on now is Q, and you can check that out at Qthegame.com, and it's hopefully coming out Q1 next year, around March time. And Q.U.B.E is already out on Steam. Q.U.B.E Director's Cut is now out on Xbox One, PS4, and Wii U. And Q.U.B.E 2 is in development. There's no release date for that right now, but just keep checking out. And QubeGame.com, where you can subscribe to the mailing list and find out more info. And then you can follow me on Twitter. It's at Dan DeRocha. Simple.
All right. Well, that's been another interview of Huge Update interviews. I've been Alistair McInnes. This has been Dan DeRocha, and I'll say goodbye, and then Dan will say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Auf Wiedersehen.